ideal circumstances. What concerns you the most, if anything else?
Well, I mean, I think that, in our two previous games, I think that we've been able to control pace of the game. And you control pace of the game with these guys with your offense and your ability to handle the full court pressure, and then to get it up into the front court, and then get a quality shot. And today we just couldn't do that, right? The pressure kind of sped us up. Pressure is designed to make players turn inward, and you want to go kind of one-on-one. And unfortunately, when you go one-on-one and you get your head down, and you don't see the decisions that you need to see quick enough, right? You got to be able to have vision of the floor. And I thought give them credit, because their pace and their physicality and stuff, the game was played at their pace.
My next question, I felt like the game was on their terms, and also
Yeah.
the possession game. I mean, they had 15 offensive rebounds, 7 of them from their two bigs.
Yeah, those second chance opportunities, really, that's how they thrive, right? I mean, even you could sit here and you could look at the three-point shooting and you could say, oh, they're 11 of 29, and they're averaging a lot more attempts than that. But I think they had 7 and 1s. So count the 7 and 1s on that, and now we're talking about 18 made three-point opportunities. You're never going to beat them like that, right? So it's one thing when you got to get out there and contest the threes and you have a cycle of help, and then you've got to go ahead and try to clean up the boards. But kind of the late excuse me fouls are also really a killer, because then you're shooting a free throw and then they set their pressure back up. So it was on their pace, it was on their terms, just like it was probably on ours the first 2 times we played them. So, round 3 goes to them. They're a good team. And then, round 4 is in Adelaide. It's the way it works.
Are you concerned defensively that at times it might have looked a little bit easy to them, especially rolling to the basket?
I think every coach would be, right? I just think that's part of the game. So, we've had some days off. We haven't had days off here in a minute. It's probably our longest stretch in a while. We've been playing games, and we were kind of cruising right along there for a while. We've had some changes, had a few days off. I think it just took us, a little while to figure out the rhythm, and maybe we never did. I think Southeast had some about a week off, a little while ago, and they went to Tasmania and lost the game. I'm a firm believer that in basketball you have to play. You have to play to get rhythm. So I don't like a week off. I don't really like that. I think we had some really productive practices. I think we had some so-so ones. I thought we didn't, show any of that stuff today.
We've spoken about that a lot. How you don't like the breaks.
Yeah.
We spoke 9 days ago how you were concerned, but
Yeah, and here it was, right in my face. And, as a coach, then you're just trying to find ways to wrestle that momentum back and, give them credit, right? You got to give them a lot of credit, because they got the momentum, and then they were able to keep it.
the positive out of the break was you were able to bring John in.
Yeah.
What did you like from what you saw from him?
Well, he's a good player, and he's a veteran, and we had one shoot around with him and a bunch of coaches meetings, and he's going to really help us. And he's a veteran guy that has a confidence and professionalism about him, and you saw his looks, and we'll have some different type lineups with him out there, and I've got to blend those combinations together a little bit now. He's a different player than Troy Brown was, figuring out who's on the floor with who, and when I sub DJ and when you sub Flynn and when John's in, and so we've got some change coming. Right here, I'm not exactly sure how that plays out just yet, but we've got a few more days to, look at the film and teach and correct. That's what we do, and that's part of the job. And, you want to go out and you want to play better, and we'll have a really, an interesting game on the road Friday night against New Zealand.
What was it like for you at three-quarter time against you chasing the game at that point? You got caught sitting on 4 fouls.
Yeah, I just not very good. It's not what you want. And, you have to go smaller at some point, because we're trying to create more pace. And I was like, we got to create some opportunities to get threes, a little bit like when we were out here against Perth. you've got to figure out how and if you can wrestle the momentum of the game back. And, Bryce is a big part of what we do. So, that's not very comfortable. But at that point, it's like, well, I kind of got to double down on it and leave him in the game and just hope he doesn't get the fifth one. But he was fine, right? We just never got the momentum back, to be honest with you.
Mike, you were training at Rockingham yesterday. Obviously, Rockingham have three of your players, Harris, White, and Jones. Can you say to the fan what they should expect from those sort of players?
Yeah, well, they were fantastic at hosting us yesterday. Really, really professional and stuff. They were great to us. And, I think you guys saw Isaac White last year, and he's a true pro on and off the court. He loves basketball. He loves to compete. And you saw that out of him today on both sides of the ball, and that's what he brings, and you guys have seen that, like I said. Michael Harris, he's played out here for Perth. He's a high-energy guy that can shoot the ball, and he flies around, and he jumps really high, and he can really, do some different things, and he's just a fantastic person. Enjoy him with our group and our team. And Blake Jones is a really, really skilled big guy. Quiet guy that we're fortunate to have as an injury replacement player. I believe that he's an NBL roster big. I think that he should be on a roster. I think he's that talented, and I think he's just sort of scratching the surface. And we've been fortunate to have him with us all year, and you guys will you'll get to see him at work because he can shoot it and he can pass it and he can do a lot of different things.
Michael was obviously 1v2 today. That's what the beat's now 2 games behind you. Do you worry about that? Do you worry about finishing on top, or are you more looking at the bigger picture?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, I don't. We've had a really good year. We've done a lot of really good things. It's like I said, is it really cruise along and then all of a sudden we have a 2-game losing streak right now? I think that's the more of the concern is the rhythm and the pace of our team. We obviously want to play well. I think we're pretty healthy. We've had an interesting week with time off and a new player coming in and adjusting and stuff like that. But, this was 1/33 of our season. And they all are. And I'm not going to go overboard and say that this was a really big game, right? Would it have been nice to play better? Would it have been nice to win? Absolutely. The win is all, that's validation for whether you're playing well or not, really, for a lot of people. I'm looking at a lot of different things. We certainly didn't play Adelaide 36ers basketball the way I wanted to today. And like I've said multiple times, you give your opponent a lot of credit for being able to kind of bring it to you and keep that momentum and kind of keep it going through the course of the game. There was a few things there I thought in the third where we got it to 7 and then it went back to 9. We got to 7, it went to 12. It was 8. We never could break that barrier to really put game pressure back on them. But yeah, I think that our goal is to be the best version of ourselves at the end. I mean, that's always the deal. So we are getting closer to the end. We're not at the end. And I hope, this allows me as a coach to sort of get their attention and, get the edge. And, we want to be really healthy and playing well at the end of this thing. And, then you kind of throw your chips on the table and see how it plays out.
What do you make of Hoops Fest in your time over here?
Well, I was a lot more organized than last year. Last year, it was like my very first game as a head coach. I had no idea what was going on. We played also the morning game on Sunday. I just didn't really have an idea of the whole thing. But, the league does a tremendous job of bringing everybody here and putting on a really good show. I caught up with a lot of my NBA friends that were here as scouts, and, they were all really impressed with, the product and the way it looks and how it's run and, just the physicality and the play of the league too, right? I mean, it's a fun league to watch, and I think, it's just an easy sell, and it's great that we all can come here in one place and do it for a weekend and have the ladies and the men all here and play games and kind of see everybody. And, now we'll go home back to our home cities and we'll get ready for the end of the year.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks.